Good morning. My name is Kurwakumire from Tshwane University of Technology. Um, my talk will be on the design of a disaster management course using a teaching pedagogy approach. Um, I think for those who followed my presentation yesterday, I had a talk um, regarding the natural disasters which we are continuing to face, and we are experiencing them quite more often with increasing frequency. So disaster response, disaster preparedness is something which nations really need to engage in, so that as of when there are disasters, it will be possible to possibly mitigate them in a much better way. Um, so we need to develop strategies, and the strategies need to be designed, tested. But then for us to effectively do this, there is need for the appropriate capacity building to be done. So if we look at our current situation with in the geomatics domain, you see that normally we talk of disaster management, normally as an application. It could be discussed as an application of GIS, as an application of remote sensing, but sometimes we are not actually having a disaster management course within the curriculum. So our thought was that if we could have a component of disaster management within our geomatics courses, it could equip students with the capability to actually participate more effectively in the disaster management arena. So there's a need to develop either short learning programs for professionals in industry, or to develop modules which we can fit within our normal geomatics curriculums. But then again, not everyone is equipped with the know-how for course development, because normally with teaching professionals, we are not having teaching qualifications as well. So while we may have subject experts who know about the content to be covered, there are some aspects from teaching practice, which is referred to as teaching pedagogy, which are involved in course design, which also needs to be considered. And from there, you would find that course design is actually a complex process, and normally it benefits if it is done in a collaborative way. So the intent of this study, when we complete, is to design a 12 credit module, which means 120 notional hours for disaster management, but something which we can fit within a geomatics program. And then we are hoping that from the module framework which we will provide, this can add value to other practitioners in different institutions who would want to develop similar courses, or when you are upgrading your courses, maybe to add new content or to meet some new needs. But then why should we apply the pedagogical approach? This could be for a different set of reasons, because sometimes you see that there can be a course which you found at your university, maybe it's a GIS course, but when you look at the documentation, it is not even clear what competencies students are supposed to attain, or maybe the outcomes of the course, the aims themselves are not even clear, or maybe even the content itself is not even clear. So maybe the course seems to be just put somewhere. It is not seemingly aligned to other courses within the degree program. So we need our courses to be structured in a way that is promotes effective teaching and learning. So by teaching and learning, we are saying that as the teacher teaches, the students must also learn, and coupled or to go with that, there should be assessments, and then there should be feedback as well. So how then do we position the module? So here we are looking at within the surveying, the GIS, remote sensing, photogrammetry, and other courses which are within the program. Where is this module fitting? What prior knowledge should be there to position it, and within the current modules, are there modules providing this knowledge, or should some prior knowledge be incorporated in some previous modules so that when students actually participate in the course, they will have the adequate prior knowledge available? Then how then is this module to be taught? So there are several learning theories which are available, which you can choose from. I only mentioned two. One is constructivism, the other one is sociocultural. So in constructivism, we are saying that the learning which is done is student-centered. So we construct knowledge from what the students already know. So we start by an activity which students do, and from there, the lecturer facilitates and build on that knowledge. So students are more in control of the activities or the classroom tasks. In sociocultural, we are just looking at the different backgrounds which students bring in, their different knowledge, and we see how we can accommodate the different kind of students so that each and every student can actively learn and benefit from the teaching process. Then how then will the disaster management course be conducted? Will it be project-based? Will it be case study-based? Is it delivered in an online manner, in a conduct manner, in a multimodal manner? What technology do we need to impart the knowledge? What hardware and software is needed? What learning management system, is there a learning management system to be used? And to what extent would it be used? Which other resources do we need? Do we have the training staff available? Do you have the technicians, the tutors available? What data sets would we need? What prescribed books would we need? So these are all aspects which need to be looked at when we are doing the course design. Then what teaching approach are we looking at? Will it be active learning? Will it be teacher-centered? Even though currently we are promoting active learning because it is student-centered, it is collaborative, and there's also a concept which is being talked about, which is called the flipped classroom, in which students are more participating, and again, the lecturer is more like a facilitator within the class activities. So, for example, this is the traditional lecture room, whereby students are in a lecture theater, and we'll have the lecturer in the front talking to the students, imparting all the knowledge. And you still see this scenario still happening nowadays, especially for programs which will be having many students. But what we want to move towards is this scenario whereby we group students, and even the sitting arrangements are different, and students, they work on tasks, and we have maybe one member from each group presenting, and they ask each other questions, they share the knowledge, the lecturer intervenes, and in this way, students are able to exchange ideas, and we can shuffle these groups as you seem necessary, so that students, all the students, they get chance to interact with each other. So in this way, you promote learning in different ways. So when you consider this, you will find the way you would then design the course, it will be following this approach which you actually use for the actual teaching. So designing a course is much more than just the learning units and the learning outcomes. If you design it coming from an angle again, whereby how are you going to be actually doing the teaching, it will really change and add value to what the content of the booklets which you provide will be having. So you need to design a module descriptor, and in here we'll have the purpose of the module. So what is the purpose of the module? We'll have the competencies which students should be able to have at the end of the course. So here we'll be saying students should be able to do A, B, C, and D. And then we need to distribute the credits across different activities in the module. So if it's a 12 credit course, it is a semester course, but now we need to say the 120 hours, how are they going to be spent within this module? And this should be stipulated in the module descriptor. Then we go to the learning units of the module. And there we are saying what knowledge gaps are available and how can we use those gaps to design our learning units. Then also what exit level competencies should be there. And from those exit level competencies, we then also design our units. What material is needed for the students to learn or to support their learning or to support their practical work. And these are the prescribed and recommended books. Then we go to the learning outcomes of the module. So whereby we also look at how are we going to assess the students, what activities will be done by the lecturers, what activities will be done by the students, then what formative assessments will be there per unit, what summative assessments will also be there per unit. Then the credit allocation, we need to look at what hours are allocated to teaching, what hours are there for tutorials, for practical work, for the assessments, for self-study, for research work. Sometimes you need to put in a work integrated learning component whereby students actually maybe visit an organization for a week and learn from there. And then from there, maybe they design a portfolio of evidence. Then again, as you are designing your outcomes, and also depending on where the course is positioned, where exactly will it fit? So for example, we have the Bloom's taxonomy, which you can use to design your outcomes and assessment criteria. So at the bottom, you see there is remember, then understand, apply, and at the top there is create. So if it's remember, it is like the entry level content, which normally first years are examined on. But like if this is an exit level course, we expect students to be analyzing, to be evaluating, to be creating. So this framework can assist you in developing outcomes which are suitable for the level of the course. And to add this, the framework comes with a number of verbs. This list is not exhaustive, but it has got some of the verbs. So you see that, for example, if we are at the bottom part, which is remember, we are just testing the knowledge. So it's defining, identifying, describing, explaining, and so on. But if we look at the highest level, which is create, we're asking students to define, to design, to modify, to develop, to rewrite, to critique, among other things. So you see that the way in which you will assess students is now at a higher level. So this helps us to make sure that we position the course correctly and the content which is there is fitting with the level which we have placed it. And it is good practice to do this in a collaborative way with using a team of experts. And normally you would find that an examination from professionals which are outside the field would bring good feedback, which you can actually use. So to just demonstrate how you would conduct this collaboratively, there is a platform which is called Mural, which you can use collaboratively with people. You can work together in different locations. So you can plan your module using this. So for example, this is for one of my courses which I teach is adjustment of errors or adjustment computations. So what we did for this course was to say the first week we need to orient students. So since students are new to the course, firstly we do what is called acquisition. So it will be me, the teacher, who's starting. So I will tell them what the course is about, and I will have some videos for them to actually see what the course is about. Then I engage the students in a discussion to also find out if they have got questions, what they want to know. Then I talk again, and maybe I give them some work to do in preparation for the next class. Then I'll have my units for the first 4 weeks. And in these 4 weeks, it will be me, the teacher, who will be starting by a bit of content. Then we engage in discussion. Then I put students in groups so that they can collaborate. I also give them work to practice. And at the end of the lesson, I give them work to go and do at home, to go investigate, so that when we come back to class next time, we'll now start by discussion. So instead of me being in front of the class, I'm starting by saying, okay, groups, can one person from the groups present something? And then I come in as the lecturer in acquisition, and then we do more collaborations. I give students practice work, and we do investigation. Then later on, you will find that in the course, there is investigation, there's discussion, there is collaboration, there is production. So students are now able to do a project, and they continue practicing. So in this last block, my involvement as a lecturer is now like only consultation. So students are working much more independent. So even this design, you're actually able to integrate it within how the actual course will be conducted. So these are aspects from teaching practice which we can apply in the way in which we design our courses. Then I will come to my conclusions. So I think it is imperative for us to build capacity in disaster management so that we can have the manpower or the main resources to participate. And to assist in that, I think we need to develop the courses which are integrated in the geomatics discipline for disaster management. And that will also make sure that we increase the utilization of spatial data in disaster management. And again, the course design really benefits from application of teaching pedagogy practice. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edward. That was highly informative of how to deliver content on disaster management. Do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have any online? Okay, there are no questions, just appreciation for the knowledge delivery concerning...
There is a question here.
Okay, there's a question.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Edward, for the presentation. So my name is Brian Makabai from Muchechetere. So my maybe comment to see what you perceive of it. Normally, when you are working in the disaster domain, you find that the multi-dimensional understanding is limited. So you'll find that every professional understands from their side, and also the students who are doing research in disaster, they don't perceive the problem well because of their myopic understanding from where they are coming from. So don't you think we should have a course which is multidimensional than targeting only, for example, geomatics? I'll give you an example. We have engineering solutions, for example, to a disaster. And in the geomatics, we are more of predicting and doing early warning. And then we also have the social aspect. So if you have a course that is multidimensional, you'll find that the tackling of the disasters will actually be more effective than putting emphasis on designing a course that is so specific, for example, in geomatics, where you are most likely going to be dwelling in the forecasting and the early warning, and yet early warning is informed by also the other parts surrounding the disasters. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. My point of view was coming from we have professionals who have got a role to play. So I think within geomatics we have got a specific our specific roles. So apart from early warning systems and so on, when the disaster response is actually being done, we have a role of, for example, gathering the data, processing the data, and conveying some information which can be used in real time during the field. So this would need students like who have done a GIS remote sensing. So if we take this course and put it in another field, it may be challenging. It may be challenging for those students because they do not have the prior knowledge which will be targeted from our end. But I understand your point of view that if it was to be made multidimensional, it will be more value. But I think the prior knowledge is what will be the problem with doing that approach. That is my thought on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edward, for that presentation. I think we can now go for our break. We can go for a break of about 10-15 minutes, and we should be back here at 11:15 so that we can fast track the other presentations. Thank you.
There's another question.
Excuse me, I'm asking for guidance. Haven't we closed, or I can just make a comment on the previous presenter?
Maybe you can make a comment. Please guide.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, the presenter. Joel Kitutu is my name. My question is around the approach, because what has been presented looks to me like the traditional approach of teaching, especially in technical institutions. So my question is, what's new? Looking at the changing trends, we are in a world that has changed from how it was like 5 years, 10 years ago. If we are employing this same approach, what's the new ingredient that is being presented? That's what I would like to see. Thank you.
Okay, that's more of a question than a comment. I don't know if Edward is still there. Edward, if you're there, you can make a comment on that so we can close.
Yes, I'm still there. Let me. Okay, so what you do with this approach, let's say as an example, with every unit, okay, the traditional approach was that the teacher comes in and they lecture. But now you can have a lecture video which you give to the students before the lecture. So that when you come into class, what you can do by the way or the only way you can add value to the students is not by showing them a calculation, but by explaining, but handling their questions, for example. Then with each activity which you need to do, we need to identify what technology can you use. So because there are different softwares and so on and so on. And then we teach them how to use the different softwares. So for example, with adjustment computations, they do manual calculations with my class, but they also do automation with Python and machine learning as well. So that we know that this concepts are basic in surveying, but now we need to use technology so that they get the maximum value, or they know how to utilize technology to better the approaches. So I think it is a matter of perception on so like what this enriches is actually how you actually design the module. I don't know if I have answered the question well.
Yes, he seems to have big clarity on that.